In this video, we're going to have our introduction to the unit circle, and I'm really excited about this. I enjoy the unit circle. I hope that over the next several lessons, you guys will begin to see some of the beauty that I see in the unit circle. While you're working this video, you're probably going to want to have 4 colored pencils. The colors that I have chosen are green, red, blue, and black. You can use whatever colors you want, but if you want yours to match mine, those are the 4 that I did: green, red, blue, and black. You'll also want to have a protractor so that you can measure the angles with me. So pause the video for a second, go grab those things, and then come back. Okay, we are going to look at the unit circle. You guys can see I've got the purple circle there, and I have the X and the Y axes superimposed on them. And it's called the unit circle because the radius is 1 unit long. And you guys remember the radius of a circle is the same everywhere. So it doesn't matter if I draw the radius here or if I draw the radius over here, I draw the radius down here. Everywhere the radius is unit 1 in the unit circle. You can see that the X and the Y axes split the unit circle up into 4 quadrants. And those quadrants are usually written in Roman numerals, so I'm going to write mine in Roman numerals as well. And also, they go counterclockwise. You guys remember when we measured angles, we measure the positive angles in a counterclockwise manner. So the Roman numerals for the quadrant names go in a counterclockwise manner as well. All right, I don't have very much space here on my screen. You have more space on your paper. We're going to be writing a lot of things in this area right next to the circle. So when you write the quadrant numbers, move away from the circle, kind of up into the corner of your paper. So we're going to start here with quadrant 1. There's our Roman numeral 1 for quadrant 1, and we're going to move in a counterclockwise manner over here. I've got quadrant 2, and we're going to continue to move in a counterclockwise manner down here. This is quadrant 3. And then last, we're going to end up over here, and this is quadrant 4. And you guys know you can keep going around and around the unit circle. So you'll just keep going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, however many times you go around and around it. We don't call this one 5 the second time around. We just go back into quadrant 1. Okay, so let's look at putting some points on the unit circle. So take your protractor, and I want you to measure 45 degrees up from the x-axis, and then 45 degrees up from the x-axis this way. Make all of these points the same color. I chose red. You can use whatever color you want as long as they're all the same. So I've measured 45 degrees up from the x-axis on this side, and then I've measured 45 degrees up from the x-axis on this side. And in class, we're going to put some values in these points. We're going to put some x and y values. For right now, I just want you to put some open parentheses so that you have space for that, because that's really important as we discuss the unit circle. Once you get that done, turn your protractor over onto this side, and I want you to measure 45 degrees right here, and then come over to this side and measure 45 degrees right here as well. And then just like before, put these parentheses on there. Okay, if you need to pause the video for a second so that you can get all that written on there so that we can fill it in, let's do that. All right, now that you have all 4 points drawn and all 4 sets of parentheses drawn, we're going to put some angle values, we're going to put them on the inside. So I cannot write as small as you can. Try to write fairly small just in this area because we're going to add some other angles in here and it's going to get really crowded. So keep your same colored pencil. All right, let's see what angle this is. All right, if we went this way, we're going in a positive direction. So we would call that, oops. All right, let me get the right color here. Call that 45 degrees. All right, and then if we keep going in a positive direction, we're coming around this way. Now we always measure angles coming from the x-axis. Never measure from the y-axis, always measure from the x-axis. Well, all the way to here would be 180 degrees. We're 45 degrees away from 180. 180 minus 45, 135. Okay, and if we keep going around, if we're at 180 and we go 45 more, 180 plus 45 is 225. All right, and if we go all the way around the circle, this is 360, but see, we're 45 degrees away from 360. So 360 minus 45 315. Okay, now you remember from before that we don't have to go in a counterclockwise direction. We can go in a clockwise direction, and we can put all those same angles as negative angles. Remember that coterminal angle that's negative. So if I'm here and I go in a clockwise direction, this one is now negative 45. All right, and continuing on around to this one, that would be negative 180. I didn't quite make it. I'm 45 degrees away from negative 180. So that's negative 135. Now I'm 45 degrees past negative 180. So that's negative 225. And continuing on around to this one, there's negative 360. I'm 45 degrees away from negative 360. So that's negative 315. And y'all start looking for some patterns here. Do you notice that I have positive and negative the same? Positive and negative the same because I went clockwise and counterclockwise the same distance. So what changes is my positive and negative, and the same thing here. Okay, we've also learned that there are two different ways to measure angles. We can measure angles in degrees, as I have written here, but we can also measure angles in radians. So remember, to change 45 degrees into radians, I'm going to do 45 times pi over 180, and I'm going to simplify that. I'm going to get pi over 4. 45 goes into 180 4 times. Okay, so look at this one. This one would be 1 whole pi, right? Remember we said 180 degrees is pi. Pi is 4 pi over 4, but I didn't quite make it. I'm 1 pi over 4 short, so I'm going to be 3 pi over 4. And it turns out in the second quadrant that the radian measure, the numerator is always 1 less than the denominator. 4 minus 1 is 3, 3 pi over 4. Okay, so if I'm 1 less than pi this way, if you go this way, I'm 1 pi over 4 more than pi. So 4 pi over 4 plus 1 more pi over 4 makes 5 pi over 4. And again, it is true of all third quadrant positive angles that the measure that I have here, the number I have here, is 1 more than the number I have here, 4 plus 1, which is 5. All right, moving over here. Well, if that's 180, if that's pi, and I go 180 more, now I'm at 2 pi, but I didn't quite make it, right? I'm pi over 4 away. So 2 pi, that would be 8 pi over 4, and I'm 1 less than that. So I'm at 7 pi over 4. Okay, and to help you remember that, multiply this one by 2 and then subtract 1, because 2 pi would be right here, but I'm 1 pi over 4 away. 2 times 4 is 8, minus 1 is 7. All right, so let's go around the unit circle with our radians the other way. Let's do those coterminal angles. So if I go this way, remember it's the same distance as this distance, it's just in the opposite direction. So instead of being a positive angle, I'm going to be a negative angle, but it's this same distance. So negative pi over 4. All right, coming around to this one, do you see that this distance right here is exactly the same as this distance right here? It's just that this distance is positive. So this distance is going to be negative 3 pi over 4. All right, moving into this one, I'm going to have the same kind of idea. I've got negative 5 pi over 4. And then last, back into the first quadrant there, I've got negative 7 pi over 4. Okay, hopefully you have all of those written really small, like in this little area. If yours are not really small and you need to shrink them, pause the video, erase, shrink them. We're going to put a lot more stuff in here, and yours are not going to fit if yours are as big as mine are right now. But that is the name of these 4 points, both in radians and degrees, both in a positive and a negative direction. Okay, now let's pick up a different colored pencil, put the dots and put the parentheses just like we did last time. What we're going to measure this time is 30 degrees. So put your protractor down here, measure 30 degrees right here, then measure 30 degrees right here. Remember, always measure off of the x-axis. That's going to be really important when we get to word problems. So 30 degrees here, 30 degrees here. Then flip your protractor over, 30 degrees right here, and also 30 degrees right here. Okay, pause the video if you need to so you can get all of your points and also all of your parentheses. Okay, let's label them so that they have degrees and radians just like we did with the red ones, just like we did with the 45s. We're going to do the same thing with the 30s. Well, I know I measured this one to be 30 degrees because that's what I had my protractor on. Now, when I measured 30 degrees here, you guys can see that I was at 180 and I went 30 degrees backwards. 180 minus 30 is 150. And then when I turned my protractor over, 180 plus 30 is 210. All right, last quadrant. I'm going all the way around to here. Well, you can see I almost made it to 360, but not quite. I'm 30 degrees shy of 360. So that makes 330. Okay, now let's do the same thing, but this time we're going to go in a clockwise direction. We're going to go around the unit circle this way, which gives me those negative angles. So right here is the same distance as what I have right here, right? So that's negative 30. Continuing on around the circle over here, well, that's going to be negative 150. And then continuing up here, that's 30 degrees beyond negative 180, which is going to be negative 210. And then going all the way around here, well, I almost made it to negative 360, but not quite. I'm 30 degrees short, so negative 330 degrees. Okay, if you need to pause the video so that you can get all your degrees, go ahead and do that. Okay, now let's do the radians. 30 degrees, changing 30 degrees into radians, 30 times pi over 180. If I simplify that, I'm going to get pi over 6. Basically, what that means is I can fit 6 30-degree segments inside of 180. Now, if I go around here, remember what we said last time, the numerator is 1 less than the denominator because we didn't quite make it to 6 pi over 6. We're 1 pi over 6 short. So that puts us at 5 pi over 6. Coming down this way, I have 1 pi over 6 more. So my numerator is 1 more than my denominator. And then if you remember in this quadrant, I almost made it to 2 pi. 2 pi is 12 pi over 6, but I'm 1 pi over 6 not enough. So 11 pi over 6. 2 times 6 is 12, minus 1 is 11. Okay, now let's go the opposite way. Let's do those negative angles. So coming this way from the x-axis down is going to be negative pi over 6. Coming around into this quadrant, it's going to be this one except negative. So negative 5 pi over 6. Here in this quadrant, I'm going to get negative 7 pi over 6. And then moving back around to the first quadrant, I'm almost to negative 2 pi. So I'm at negative 11 pi over 6. Okay, again, pause the video if you need to so you can get all of those numbers written small next to your dots. Okay, let's look at our next set of dots. So pick up your protractor. This time I want you to measure 60 degrees. So we're going to measure 60 degrees from the x-axis here. We're going to measure 60 degrees from the x-axis over here. Flip the protractor, measure 60 degrees here, and measure 60 degrees here, and put a dot of the same color and put the parentheses in all of those spots. Pause the video if you need to. Okay, let's label those. Let's do degrees first, like what we did before. Well, I know I measured 60 degrees right here, so that's 60. 60 degrees short of 180 is 120. 60 degrees past 180, that's 240. And 60 degrees away from 360, that's 300. Okay, I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to create another one for going backwards.